You asked him the question, the one everyone asks eventually. Would you still love me if I was a cockroach? He paused. He really shouldn't have. Because if you actually turned into a cockroach, you wouldn't just be lovable. You would be magnificent. Sit down. Let me make the case for you. Here's the thing. Nobody tells you about becoming a cockroach. Everything you are quietly afraid of. Being ugly, being unwanted, being easy to get rid of, you would be better at staying alive than almost anything else on this planet. So we are going to go through it, feature by feature. And by the end, you're going to wonder why he even hesitated. It is an old fear, dressed up as a joke. People have been asking a version of this question for 100 years. A writer named Franz Kafka built an entire story around a man who woke up transformed into a giant insect, and we have been quietly unsettled by the idea ever since. But your version has a punchline he missed. Biologically speaking, you picked a spectacular animal to be afraid of becoming. Let's start small because dating is expensive. As a human, you cost money. Dinners, coffees, the little trips. As a cockroach, you could go an entire month without eating, a week without a single sip of water. You would run your whole body on almost nothing, breathing slow, burning slow. Think of what he would save. No restaurants, no brunch, nothing. He would still love you, obviously. Maybe not, but stay with me. It gets better. Now, say the two of you have a fight, a real one. A normal couple loses a little sleep over it. You could lose your head over it, literally, and keep going for a week. Because here is something that sounds made up and is completely real. Cut the head off a cockroach, and it does not die, not right away. It does not breathe through its mouth. It breathes through tiny holes running down the sides of its body, and each one keeps working with no instructions from the brain at all. Its blood does not race through high-pressure veins, so there is nothing to bleed out. The neck just seals itself shut in a couple of minutes, and the body carries on like nothing happened. This is not a rumor. An entomologist named Christopher Tipping actually did it. He removed the heads of cockroaches under a microscope, sealed the wound with dental wax, and some of them lived for weeks. What finally kills a headless cockroach is not the injury. It is thirst. It only stops because eventually it needs a drink, and it no longer has the mouth to take one. So the next time he says something you would rather not hear, you would not even need the head to walk away from it. Let's talk about trust. Have you ever worried he might slip out quietly while you're asleep? As a cockroach, that is simply not possible. On your back end, you would grow two little sensors called cerci, covered in hairs so fine, they are among the most sensitive feelers in all of biology. They do not touch anything. They read the air. A single puff of wind, the soft push of air a footstep makes before the foot even lands, and you are already moving. One study measured it. A cockroach starts to run within about 8 milliseconds of feeling that breeze. That is faster than you can blink, faster than you can decide to blink. So picture it. He tiptoes toward the door in the dark, holding his breath, moving one careful inch at a time. And you feel the air bend around his ankle before his foot ever touches the floor. There is no sneaking out on you, not ever. And if he somehow did start moving before you did, he still could not catch you. A cockroach can run about 50 times its own body length in a single second. Scaled up to your size, that is a full sprint across the kitchen before he has even turned around. He would end up apologizing to an empty room. You would already be behind him. Romantic, we will come back to that one. And honestly, you would experience the whole world differently in a way that is either a nightmare or a superpower depending on your mood. You would taste with your feet. You would feel your partner walk into the room as a change in the floor before you saw him. Your eyes would be built from thousands of tiny lenses, turning one soft lamp into a shattered field of light. You would not see him clearly. You would feel him everywhere, all at once, as pressure and vibration and warmth. Which, if we are being fair, is how a lot of people describe love anyway. And you would be almost impossible to get rid of. Drop you in water? A cockroach can hold its breath for something close to 40 minutes. If he ever stormed off into the sea to win an argument, you could simply follow him under and calmly wait him out. Okay, worst case scenario, the absolute worst. The city gets hit. Nuclear worst. Good news, you would outlast him. The show MythBusters actually ran this test at a real nuclear site. They hit cockroaches with radiation, dialed all the way up. At the level of the bomb dropped on Hiroshima, 10% of them were still alive a month later. A human being does not get anywhere close to that. Now, full honesty here, because that is the deal on this channel. A cockroach would not survive the actual explosion. The heat and the shockwave would take it, the same as everything else standing there. It is not immortal, and anyone who tells you it has skipped the fine print. But in the slow, quiet, radioactive aftermath, you would still be here, standing in the rubble, thinking about him, not dividing up the inheritance, thinking about him. Let's talk about the future. He wants kids someday? You would give him kids, and then some. A single female cockroach can produce a few hundred offspring across her life, and once her children start having children, one female and her descendants can, in ideal conditions, theoretically become more than 300,000 cockroaches. In a single year, 300,000. He would not be able to keep up. He would not be able to say no fast enough. You would be, statistically, the most overwhelmingly devoted partner he has ever had in his life. And here is the part that should really settle the whole thing. You would not be some unlucky girlfriend who got turned into a bug. You would be royalty. Cockroaches have been here for 300 million years. They were walking around before the dinosaurs arrived. They watched the dinosaurs show up, and they watched them leave. 5 times, the planet has tried to wipe the slate clean. 5 mass extinctions that erased most of life on Earth. The asteroid that ended the dinosaurs, the one that set the sky on fire, and then buried the world in a long winter. Your ancestors walked through that one too. And every single time, they just kept walking, through the ash, through the cold, through the dark. You would not be a fragile thing he has to protect. You would be the single most durable love he will ever be offered. So of course he will still love you. Except, here's the part I have to be honest about. Because on this channel, the science always gets the last word. Everything I just told you is true. The headless week, the feet that read the air, the 300,000 children, all of it. Real, all of it documented. But you already know how this actually ends. Every time I promised you he would still love you, and then quietly added, maybe not, that was the joke. It was also the honest part. Because no list of survival statistics, however jaw-dropping, has ever once made a single person love another. Nobody falls in love with a cockroach. Not really. And not because the survival resume isn't impressive. It is genuinely one of the most impressive on Earth. It's because love was never about the shell in the first place. When he pictures you, he is not running the numbers on your radiation tolerance. He is thinking about your face, your voice, the specific, unscientific, completely ordinary way that you exist and nobody else does. The cockroach can outlive him by a week with no head, but it cannot be missed. And being missed, it turns out, is the entire thing. So here is the real answer to the question you asked him. If you turned into a cockroach, he probably could not love you the way you meant it. That part is true, and pretending otherwise would be a lie. But the fear hiding underneath the question, the quiet worry that you are only wanted for the shell, the biology actually disagrees with that. The most unkillable creature on the planet, 300 million years of pure survival, still cannot do the one small thing you do just by being you. You were never the container. You were the thing inside it. You always were. But seriously, please do not turn into a cockroach, just to be safe.